February 28th, 1793. Something strange takes up residence in the dilapidated mill near Beaver River. It begins to dig. April 5th, 1793. 5-year-old Abigail Thatcher picks wild berries with her mother on the border of their farm. Her mother, Joanna, pricks her thumb on a thorn. She is distracted only for a moment, but it is long enough for Abigail to somehow wander off. They search for days, but they never find her. September 28th, 1793. Samuel Carpenter enters the tavern after sundown in a state of great distress. He is given a bracing shot of whiskey, and, after he calms down, tells his story. He had entered the woods late that afternoon to hunt. He'd been at it for hours when he saw a magnificent stag lope off around a bend. He stalked it, and when he turned and leveled his rifle, he saw a woman that stood 12 feet tall, as clear as day before him. He said that she was as thin as a birch and covered with dead, naked branches, like a scarecrow. The woman noticed Samuel and loomed down over him, her long, slack face coming as close as spitting distance before he turned and ran without looking back. The patrons of the tavern laughed heartily at the story. All except for Jasper Aldridge. He had seen the woman too. October 13th, 1793. Mary Thomas, 12 years old, is awoken in the night to the sound of pecking at her window. When she investigates, she finds a crow perched upon the sill. To her amazement, it speaks to her in a comically high-pitched voice, asking to be let in for warmth and soft pillows. Mary cannot say why, but this talking crow fills her with utter revulsion, and she rushes to bed and hides under the covers. It was well that she did, for in the darkness she could not see what the crow was attached to. The next morning the crow is gone, and Mary decides that it was just a dream. She then realizes her bedclothes are covered in blood, and that she has become a woman. October 14th, 1793. For approximately 1 minute, the area around the dilapidated mill near Beaver River falls completely silent and still. There is nobody around to witness it. November 4th, 1793. A slave belonging to the Thatcher family returns from town with supplies and finds a curious object propped against a tree on his path home. It is a child-sized wooden doll. He recognizes the clothing it is dressed in as belonging to the little Abigail Thatcher, who has been missing for over 6 months. The doll's painted face is chipped and worn, but its expression of delight is plainly visible. They find chocolate in its mouth. June 30th, 1794. The body of Jasper Aldridge is fished out of the pond 6 miles from Marlow. He is found by a troop of Shawnee trappers, who report the body but do not help to recover it. His eyes are bulging and point in different directions. His teeth are missing. April 20th, 1795. Wesley Braver is to be executed. At the time of his death, a large hawk perches atop the gallows he is hung from and stares out at all gathered. Mary Thomas, now betrothed, watches from the crowd. She feels an acute discomfort at the bird's gaze. Others feel the same, as it takes several days for anyone to work up the nerve to cut Braver's body down. The gallows are dismantled over a week later, for that's how long it takes for the hawk to starve. Nobody seems to remember that any of this happened. August 14th, 1796. George Altgeld closes his general store. He reflects that most of the goods he sold were paid for, if not outright provided, by the traveling Shawnee that came through town. No Shawnee have traveled through Marlow for well over 2 years. December 25th, 1796. Tens of thousands of voices scream out in unified agony from the dilapidated mill near Beaver River. It cannot be heard in Marlow, 3 miles away over the sounds of their Christmas celebrations. January 7th, 1797. Caleb Martin and his wife Elizabeth watch from across the street as strange lights shine from Samuel Carpenter's home. After nearly 2 hours, Samuel calmly walks from his house in naught but his bedclothes and heads toward the woods. By the time Caleb is able to dress for the cold and follow his neighbor, Samuel is gone. He is never seen again. July 18th, 1801. Mary Thomas has a child of her own, a boy she names David. David raced to meet her in the gardens and tells her that a large owl has taken roost in the Thatcher's barn. Mary does not know why, but she forbids her son from ever entering that barn again. Thankfully, her son will keep this promise. Years later, her grandson will not. April 5th, 1823. Joanna Thatcher and her husband John are visited by their daughter. She raps at their door all night, crying and begging to be let out of the cold. They do not open the door. 30 years have passed, and Joanna and John have grown old, but the voice of their Abigail is still that of a 5-year-old. The neighbors bar their doors as well. One that peeks out his window and sees what is really knocking at their door never speaks again.